Good afternoon, everyone. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. What a show today. We have Mr. Jonathan Shroyer on the phone, and he is the CEO of Onaprawcium Labs. And what a great company. They're doing so many good things. They deliver incredible customer experiences to brands, and they've just recently announced a really interesting acquisition called Spreadsheet Scheduler. We're going to get into all of that today because it's exciting news. It's hot off the press. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Andy.
It's super great to see you again. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet as we always do, and tell us about Onaprawcium first before we get into this very interesting acquisition that your company has made, Spreadsheet Scheduler. But let's talk about Onaprawcium first.
100%. So we started Onaprawcium Labs just a touch under 2 years ago to really kind of revolutionize and build the future of service. And so inside of our company, we have an on-demand platform of best-in-class workers and technologies that provides just-in-time value to our clients. So in the last 20 months, we started off with 4 people and a $150,000 loan and an idea. And we called that phase 1. And so in the last 20 or so months, we've landed 22 clients. We've launched a number of different products, and we've really helped companies understand how they can transform from being the cost center mentality of services to the profit center, and using elastic resources to do so. So it's been an amazing journey.
Jonathan, what an amazing journey. 20 months, you started with an idea and 4 people. You're up to 22 clients. You're making a massive impact. We've been watching your company for about 6 to 8 months, and it's really extraordinary what you're doing. And now you have a recent acquisition that we'll talk about momentarily. But for the clients that have come to Onaprawcium, let the viewers of the show tell them what you're doing for those companies.
Well, yeah, 100%. So we have 3 main product lines. The first one is Connect. And so clients that leverage the Connect service, they want that frontline customer service that's elastic, so they can scale up and down. Sometimes there's spikes, there's launches, there's unexpected volume, and you need to have a partner like Onaprawcium to help you handle that in a seamless and cost-effective way. And so we do that very effectively. In addition to that, in the transform space, that product line, I created something called the Service Stack. It's a best-in-class benchmark framework to help companies understand how can they transform from that cost center focus to that profit center focus. So we help companies transform in that way. And so it's been pretty amazing to help companies see how they can protect revenue, drive retention, drive adoption, and so forth. And then our third product line is called Innovate. And this is our technology hub inside of the overall network. And we have technology like Spreadsheet Scheduler, which we just bought, which is a workforce management optimization tool, as well as AI and other capabilities where we help optimize the overall experience. From our point of view, if you look at those 3 product lines, Andy, what you'll see is it's a perfect hybrid of human capital and technology. And we believe the future of service is combined. When you get the best of both of those worlds, then you deliver the best service to your customers.
I love it. And this is all about providing the best service to your customers. And that's really what is making small, medium, and large companies win in this day and age is providing that superior service. And your platform and your program is about helping those companies to provide that superior service to their customers, right?
That's right. 100%. And we provide the tools, the capabilities, and the thought leadership.
That's incredible. So let's talk about the thought leadership just for a little bit, because you and your team, you've got a great background. Anybody that wants to see what Jonathan and his team is doing, I highly suggest you check Onaprawcium up and see what they're up to. So when you say thought leadership, when a company hires Onaprawcium, you also, and we spoke about this before, you also provide this level of expertise that they're not going to get in a lot of other places. So let's talk about that a little bit as well.
Well, I think what you'll find is customer service as a discipline has matured over the last 30 or 40 years, right? And so what that means is over time, you get all of these really capable resources that want to do fun and exciting things, but they don't necessarily want to work for one company. They want to help a bunch of companies. And so what we did was we put together the network to allow those people to engage with brands. And so they get to work on these cool and fun projects inside of our transform space, as well as our innovation lab. And what we work with companies and we talk about benchmark A, what are their competitors doing? So what do they need to do just to compete? And then B, what is nobody doing, but we believe is the future of service? And let's experiment on those things inside of our innovation lab and help you do that. And so when you have that foundation of talented people that have been in the industry for 15 to 20 years that are elastic, that want to work on fun, cool, and sexy projects, then it's like the perfect amalgamation of capability and competence to deliver value.
I love it. And I've been waiting to interview you again. I wanted to find out a little bit, Jonathan, about where you see service going. In other words, what's really going to separate those companies that scale versus those companies that sort of, fall in a puddle and don't move very much, or fall in some mud or move backwards? What's going to separate those types of companies right now?
I think from my perspective, when you look at the changing sentiments on the B2C products around the world, so the consumers, what are their sentiments? In large part, that is a direct correlation to what your service experience needs to be like. You're starting to see a couple of interesting trends. Meet them where they are. That's a big trend that's kind of starting to happen, right? Another trend that's starting to happen is listen to them and then communicate the changes that you made in your product or your game or whatever it is. So after you've listened to them. And third is treat them with the respect they deserve, because in some cases, depending on the product, folks are buying like Ferraris and Porsches inside of your video games, or they're making smaller purchases, but over the lifetime it adds up to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. So they're essentially buying a car, but are you treating them with that same respect that somebody that's making a big purchases? And if you think about those interesting trends that you're starting to see, the companies that capitalize on those things, using people and human capital, using technologies to optimize, but really treat that person like it's a personalized, unique experience for them, those are the companies that are going to be the future winners.
I love it. And we want to talk about Spreadsheet Scheduler, but I wanted to ask you a few more questions because I knew you were coming on the show and I was very excited about this because I wanted to get your view of what's happening, or what do you see happening with VR in terms of people buying things? Is that something that's going to explode in the future, where people can actually sort of, see the car in their garage, if you will, through VR or something crazy like that? Do you see something like that happening?
Well, it's kind of an interesting topic because I've been in gaming for quite some time, and VR has kind of penetrated gaming, at least in niche ways. I have my own kind of Google Pixel device with my VR, not that I'm marketing it, and people buy whatever they want to buy, but use different VR, and it's fun and it's engaging and it's exciting. I think we haven't quite seen the transition to the mass market, right? And I still think there's some things that need to be sorted out about that. Now, with that said, like when you look at the different identities and experiences that people create online, whether it's using kind of elementary versions of online communication like Facebook, or whether it's starting to use next generation ones, like the streaming platforms and so forth. It's interesting to see how people kind of get excited about that identity that they create online. Now, if you could imagine that identity being created in such a way that you have a virtual experience where you've created that identity and you can engage, not too dissimilar from a Second Life or a product like that, I think that could be kind of interesting. I also think probably on the stepping stone to kind of this VR piece on the consumer side, what you might find, and this is kind of one thing that I'm really hoping will happen, is inside of a product, instead of just having like this chatbot pop up, right? You'll have this personalized AI experience where you'll have a companion app. I call it a companion relationship. So I know we're off topic, but follow me here. So when you're like January the 1st, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. I'm going to do it. By January 31st, you're done, right? But if you buy a dog on January the 1st, you're still walking in May. You're still walking in June. So if you have that companion to kind of push you. Now imagine that same analogy in the support experience. Imagine that a company's built AI in the back end that has human interfaces, technology interfaces, and all of a sudden you not only want to go and play this game or use this product because you like it, you want to talk to this person that you built a relationship with, right? It's like the Jarvis, if you will, of customer service, right? So I think there's a lot of different applications here that we're still trying to figure out.
Very interesting. And I know you're somewhat of a futurist. On your hat, it says the future of service, which is, why Owiącijum is taking off, starting with 4 people. You're up to 22 clients after 20 months. It's just going gangbusters. People are hearing about what you're doing. People are reaching out. They're, talking to you and your team, Jonathan. They want to know what's going on. So when we think about the future, again, while I have you on the show, I have to indulge myself just a minute. Will there be a moment in time before we talk about Spreadsheet Scheduler where, for example, I'm going to have a barbecue and I'm going to have 10 people come over, and because of all of the data or all the data that is out into the internet and what's going on, that some company might deliver the perfect amount of food and the perfect amount of drinks in the exact proportions that the 10 people coming to my home would want at the exact time before the barbecue, and know so much about me and my life of what's going on that things just get delivered automatically without me even having to ask for it.
I think that if you opt in to sharing your data and your information, and you're open to those types of catered experiences, right? Considering privacy is an important thing. But if you opt in, I mean, there's companies that are already starting to do that in a very elementary scale. Like I worked for Postmates for a couple of years, Uber Eats, DoorDash. They start to do that, and then when I go back to their app, they deliver the merchants that they think that I'm going to want to buy from, and then I buy from those merchants because I don't scroll down, right? So you're starting to see like the early stages of this. So if you are interested in this kind of catered experience, if you opt in, the kind of computer power to make that happen and the data, I think already exists. It's about the execution and the monetization and profit. How do you build a profitable company in that way? So I think that's definitely possible.
What a world we're gonna have, and what a world we're in. So Jonathan, listen, this is amazing. 20 months, Owiącijum has already made its first acquisition, the Spreadsheet Scheduler. Spreadsheetscheduler.com. Try and say that 3 times quickly. Let's get into that a little bit, because what I'm seeing, it's very, very interesting. A decentralized customer service forecasting and scheduling workforce management system. Let's talk about what all that means and how that fits into what you're doing at Owiącijum right now.
Well, I think what's super interesting is I started off my career, I kind of cut my teeth in workforce management, right? And so I built all these tools and capabilities to more effectively understand where supply and demand meet each other. And so for those that don't know customer service very well, if this is one of the first times learning about it in the .com podcast here, is that in customer service, in order to ensure that you get a fast response time, you have to know the volume that's coming in, how long it's going to take to support that volume, and that's called demand. And then you need to know, how do I put the people in place to respond, and that's called supply. And so I started doing this 20 some odd years ago. And what I found with every company that I worked with is every workforce management team was broken. They didn't know how to do this effectively. They couldn't do it within plus or minus 5% or 10% accuracy. So they were spending 20, 30, 40% too much on workforce management because they were overstaffing to hit those service level targets or to hit the kind of response targets. And so as I built out Owiącijum, one of the things I knew that I was going to need in order to help companies ensure that they deliver best in class service is they can get that fast, efficient response time so they're not wasting money. So when I met Corey Gage, him and I, we're like-minded people. He started off, he actually worked for one of the companies he was a workforce manager after me. Him and I chatted, and I said, hey man, we've got this cool company. We're doing this thing. We love what you're doing. We can help take this amazing product, build on it, scale it, and then help companies save millions of dollars. So we've had a couple of clients where we worked with on Spreadsheet Scheduler already, where we've been able to save $1 million or $2 million in their BPO spend. So for the most part, I can pretty much go into any client and within a few weeks tell them how to save 10 to 20% in their BPO spend. So then it's not about saving costs, right, Andy? I mean, you could do that if you like, but if you want to be the winner, as you talked about earlier, who are the winners in customer service in the future? You reinvest that money that you're saving into, meeting them where they are, engaging them, personalizing, so forth and so on. So it's about optimizing your business with smart technology so that then you can enrich your overall customer end experience.
See, that's unbelievable. So let's get into the spend a little bit. Let's define what that is a little bit for people watching, and CEOs or CFOs or founders of large companies that are watching this, and they're saying to themselves, I'm hearing 10, 20% savings or 10, 20% increase on my ROI. I'm calling Jonathan like immediately. But let's talk about the spend. Let's get into that a little bit.
So essentially, the way that spend normally happens in kind of the BPO customer service space is, generally speaking, you have a number of incidents. Sometimes they're called tickets, sometimes they're called calls, but they're incidents. And let's say we have 1 million of those incidents, right? And those incidents take 5 minutes to be able to kind of process or to talk to the customer and solve their issue. So then that's 5 million minutes, right, that you need to pay for in order to deliver that customer experience. Now, if you're able to do it effectively, you'll be able to not spend more than 5.5 million minutes of resource time to solve that 5 million minutes of time, right? And so, and that's kind of the plus or minus 10%. Usually if you can staff plus or minus 10%, then you're optimized, right? Now, let's say you can't because you don't have a good workforce management and you're plus or minus 30%. Well, then that kind of 500,000 of extra minutes has now become somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 million or 2.5 million of extra minutes. And then let's say you take those minutes, and if you pay $1 a minute or $2 a minute or $3 a minute, all of a sudden you're spending millions and millions more money than you ever need to if you had an effective workforce management solution that was executing really well within that plus or minus 10%. So that's how, when we look at it, we're like, okay, well, you're plus or minus 30%. We can get you down to plus or minus 10. And that's going to save you. In some small companies, it'll be hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Larger companies, it'll be million. But at the end of the day, whatever your size of your company, it's going to give you money back that you can spend and invest elsewhere.
That's awesome. And what I love about the spreadsheet scheduler for you is it seems like it's very robust. I know that the system already has handled some of the biggest Fortune 500 companies that are out there, leading banks, leading restaurants, leading media companies. So this is really a very interesting acquisition for you. And you've already mentioned that you have 2 clients that you've been able to insert into the spreadsheet scheduler already. And they're already projecting millions of dollars of savings using this. So this is really, really interesting.
Yeah, and I think what's cool about it, Andy, is if you go to the website, spreadsheetscheduler.com, you'll see that we've set up SaaS packages for any size of business, whether you're a startup or whether you're a large company or whether you're a company that wants to use the tool, plus you want to have some consulting services or specialist services because you don't know how to do it. We've set it up in such a way that it's each size fits whatever size of your business is, and it's fairly inexpensive. I think the smallest package is only $17 a month. That's less than 67 cents a day. And then some of the larger packages are a little bit more because they're more robust and more capable. And so we're trying to make it possible where any size business can benefit from this great tool that we have, this intelligence and thought leadership that we have.
Well, I love it. And in business today, Jonathan, as you know better than anyone, is that sometimes it comes down to the margins. In other words, small percentage points really make a big difference for a lot of reasons. And to gain those percentage points by using a smart tool like the spreadsheet scheduler makes sense for not only large companies, but small companies as well.
That's right.
Very interesting. Jonathan, when we look at what you're doing with Onaprawcium and the combining the spreadsheet scheduler into the system, last time I spoke with you, I'm not even sure that spreadsheet scheduler was sort of on the drawing board at that point in time, but you moved very quickly And that's something that younger entrepreneurs need to learn how to move quickly when the opportunity arises. So maybe you could speak about that a little bit.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think moving quickly is a good way to say. Sometimes people call it pivoting and adjusting. I think what's most important is in the 20 months that I've been a startup founder, probably the hardest 20 months of my career and the most rewarding 20 months, right? And so, I mean, I talked to a bunch of different CEOs just this week because I could do like a CEO summit and so forth to learn from other startup founders. Sometimes, you feel like you're in imposter syndrome because you're like, hey, what am I doing? What do I know? I'm just a guy or a gal or whatever, right? But I think the most important thing is as the opportunity comes, you should stay focused on your core values and your core mission, but you should be able to adapt how you apply that and how you execute. And so when we first started, I wasn't planning on, acquiring Spreadsheet Scheduler. You're right. I knew that I needed to figure out this workforce management product thing sometime in my company maturation. So when the opportunity arose, I jumped on it and we moved forward. But even sometimes there's things that we're doing now that we hadn't thought of like 8, 10, 12 months ago because the business is ready. So we had a certain type of business model. COVID hit. We adjusted our business model, right? A lot of companies had to do that, but we adjusted our business model. So you have to be able to pivot, adjust, move quickly in different directions as you solidify the core structure and infrastructure of your business. And it's just something like if someone says, well, how do you deal with the anxiety or the stress or all of that? It is what it is. So don't let it consume you. Use it to fuel you to figure out what the right direction is and believe in yourself, bet on your team. And if you do that, you're going to be able to find that value point at one point or another.
That makes all the sense in the world. Let's stay with Spreadsheet Scheduler just for a minute because I'm curious, is there an onboarding process or can a small company go on the website and sort of do the workforce management sort of self-serve themselves, if you will?
Well, so it's both ways. So you can do self-service, so you can purchase it through the website and use it all on your own without engaging anyone. We also have the ability where if you want to be onboarded, if you want a specialist to help you, you can reach out to us and we'll help you with that. Well, and then the third way is some companies are trying to figure out how does this all plug in. And so we have demos that Corey, Gage, and a number of our team members, you can sign up for the demos on the website by letting us know you're interested. And we'll go and demo the tool and show you how to use it and that kind of stuff too.
I would think a lot of companies are listening to this and they are saying to themselves or would say to themselves, this is very interesting. I'm going to save I'm going to save a lot of money. And I want to figure out how to plug it in because I have existing systems already, but this system looks super engaging and super important to my business, to my workforce management solution. So has it been built with an open enough architecture to be able to work with other things that companies have? And let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. So the technology in the back end is it's basically built on Excel, and we've kind of amplified the capabilities to build the tool. So that means anybody, any enterprise, any SMB, anyone really that has any kind of workable Excel knowledge will be able to plug it in on the front end. And if they want to plug it in on the back end, then we can work ad hoc with them to plug it into their back end tools as well.
Super amazing, super amazing. So, and again, thank you. You're a startup founder that's going a million miles a minute. You've got, 22 clients that you're helping, that you've got Spreadsheet Scheduler now that's on fire that I'm sure people are going to be talking about even more than what they're already talking about it right now when they hear about all the large companies that they've already had using it. I mean, Fox and Domino's, Wells Fargo, a lot of big companies. So when we think about this, Jonathan, how do you as an entrepreneur, as a startup founder, how do you get to how hard is it to wear the Onaprawcium hat and then also sort of the Spreadsheet Scheduler hat with their team? Like, how do you collaborate as a team during COVID, and how do you communicate to make sure that all your clients and all the new clients get the superior service they expect and deserve?
Well, the cool thing is we started off as a completely remote company before COVID started. We are decentralized, distributed, right? So we've built best practices on how do you engage and work across product lines with clients and so forth. We were kind of interested, we've been in business for 18, 19 months back when we did this the employee net promoter score, because we were curious, like, well, are we doing a good job? Are we not doing a good job? What can we do better? And we found out that we got remarkably 100% on our promoter of the 30 some odd people that work more directly inside the company. And so we have a whole methodology that we actually share and train companies on how to collaborate and work inside virtual teams in a productive and meaningful way. But the reason why we know how to do it is because we started ourselves and we're like, hey, we're doing a pretty bang up job here. Why don't we share this with other people, right? And so it's hard right now. It's tough, especially with the different dynamics of families, and that'll change kind of the next 6 to 8 months. But I think there's always now going to be an element of remote work inside of most enterprises, and at least most tech and software kind of companies and so forth. And so I think being able to focus on that and figuring out those mechanisms, figuring out the feedback loops, figuring out the engagement. We gamify some of the things that we do, just figuring out different methodologies to keep people engaged in a non-business way and try to avoid kind of the Zoom drain, if you will. I hate to use that because it could be net meeting, it could be anything, right? It doesn't really matter. That if you're on video a lot, it just drains you. So you have to figure out how do you balance that inside of the team to make sure people aren't drained at the end of the day. There's just a variety of different things that we do, but we've kind of cracked that code. And we also have, interestingly enough, a way where we can vet people to know if they're going to work really well in a remote atmosphere or not, post-COVID type of thing. So all of these things we can share with companies, offline and whatnot. But it is that magic sauce that helps us, be the company we are, to be innovative, to be unique, to be different than all the other companies that are out there to help build the future of service.
See, the things you speak about now, Jonathan, brings to mind that when a company reaches out to your company, Oqədicium, they're not just getting all the great people and all the great things that you offer at all. They're also getting a brain trust. They're getting people that can provide input, because your background experience is so vast. You've been at a number of startups that have gone on to become, billion-dollar companies, that you can provide that type of input to entrepreneurs and business owners. And that's really a feather in your cap, Jonathan. Really, really amazing.
No, I really appreciate that. I think it's pretty cool. That's one of the reasons why we set up the CX Innovation Lab. That's actually, once COVID is, kind of moving past, we're going to be able to invite people to and have these think tank conversations, these brain trust conversations. So we're pretty excited we do it on Zoom today, but be able to do it in person soon will be really fun.
It's awesome. Listen, I know again that you only cut out a certain amount of time. I know you're hard at it for all your clients. You're going to get a lot of calls and a lot of people coming to Spreadsheet Scheduler, I'm sure, just immediately after they see what's happening here. So again, I wanted to thank you so much for slicing some time out today. It's always fascinating talking to you. You're a leader in the field. Like I say, you're a futurist, you're a zeitgeist. You have this pulse on what's about to happen. And when I can get someone on the show like that, it's a real delight.
Well, Andy, I really appreciate the time. And to the viewers, thanks for listening. It's always fun to come on DotCom.